6:29, 1 minute after the official sunrise here in Ormond Beach, Florida. Let's talk about the jihad attack in Manchester. Let's call it what it is. I am not there. I only have electronic foreign ways to get the information. I don't have any video for you here, but I can probably give you a lot better coverage than you're going to get in the so-called mainstream media. Let's talk about the real issues. We've seen this general scenario before. It's pretty much the same after every jihad attack. Oh no, I know they haven't arrested anyone and we shouldn't jump to conclusions or anything, but right. It was a nail bomb. You may have probably heard that by now. Maybe they're not emphasizing that in the media. I did put coverage of this in Facebook, and I figured the way that was best to do it was go to the people who are whose opinions are worthwhile. And in this day and age, that often means Twitter. So I went right to the coverage by a guy named Paul Joseph Watson, who you see over at the main thing with him is his tweets. He's at Prison Planet, which is Alex Jones's thing. I certainly take Alex Jones with a grain of salt, but his tweets here were pretty much on target, and I'm going to go through them now. Then I'm going to give you something by David Goldman, Spengler. You heard him on my show just a couple days ago. That show is Backlash on Shark Nation Radio, and I'll give you, where did I start? Let me go to his Twitter page. I'm sorry, I'm doing this as we speak. And I am just giving you what he tweeted since the incident yesterday, the most worthwhile tweets, which is pretty much all of them. And it's, again, better than you're going to get on NBC. So, this is, okay, so you had the coverage of the actual explosion, an eyewitness that says it was a huge explosion, you could feel it in your chest, you know that, you can get that kind of coverage everywhere. And then he pointed out there was an original thought that it was gas balloons or speakers blowing up. He tweeted, explosion happened in foyer area of arena, so cannot be gas balloons or speakers blowing up. Then he retweeted Tommy Robinson, who's very controversial. He's head of UK Independence Party. They like to portray him as racist and Islamophobic. He retweeted this from Tommy Robinson, a short video. Armed police dragging someone out of a car. Anyone still not think this is a terrorist attack? Then early coverage of 20 dead, hundreds injured. I think that number may have been revised down. Then 10 hours ago, which would have been about 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, where I am, I guess 1:30 a.m. in England. He pointed out it's the anniversary of the murder of Lee Rigby by Islamic terrorists. Then he retweeted, NHS sources are saying the explosion at Manchester Arena was a nail bomb attack, still unconfirmed. That's something we first saw or got familiar with when Muslims did this in Israel. So they would maximize the carnage. They would put lots of nails in the explosive device. Nice people. By the way, isn't it nice not having Barack Obama president to point out that not all Muslims did this and that how warning us against Islamophobia? We'll get to the Islamophobia angle here too. Believe me, it's there already. And then this has probably changed since, there's coverage of what CNN had as its headline. Democrats, Dems documents show Flynn lied. And Poll News Forever, Poll is related to 4chan, dozens of people dead and injured in Manchester, but CNN cares more about attacking Trump and his allies over pointless Russia accusations. Then he had retweeted again, this is long ago, he was the first to cover this, patients with injuries compatible with a nail bomb. Paul Joseph Watson then points out, if it was a nail bomb, previous nail bomb attacks in UK were by a neo-Nazi and the IRA. Might not be Islamic terror. Then there's something by this guy, David Levitt. He made a joke about it. He said something like, I almost died too. I don't have the exact link. Last time I was at an Ariana Grande concert. He apparently is a freelancer who does stuff from CNN. Looks a little delicate, if you know what I mean, and yes, probably Jewish. I don't know the name is, but who knows what his mom is, so this would definitely be in the Shonda for de Goyim category, embarrassment for the Jewish people. I imagine he will not be working for CNN anytime soon. There was a whole bunch of tweeting about this, a lot of coverage of his inappropriate tweet. And then someone named Raheem Qasim tweeted this, and Paul Joseph Watson retweeted it. Man who made horrific joke about Manchester explosions is an affirmed leftist anti-Trumper. Surprise, surprise. It wasn't horrific. It was highly inappropriate, and it shows the mentality, but, you know, I don't know if horrific would be the right term. Paul Joseph Watson, victims have shrapnel-type injuries. Lots of reports it was a nail bomb. U.S. officials tell NBC Manchester attack was carried out by a suicide bomber. Horrific. Then he gets into more detail starting then. Apparent suicide bombing tied to coincide with floods of people leaving the concert. Confirmed 19 people dead, 50 injured. He points out then, explosion may have taken place outside the arena. As people were leaving, bomber would not have had to go through security. Then he reminds people of Sadiq Khan, the Muslim mayor of London, which is not where this occurred. He had said, he posts an article, Labour politician says capitals have got to be prepared for attacks like New York bombing. That's referring to another bombing, but obviously it's a British leader there. Paul Joseph Watson adds this to that tweet, leaders who tell us to tolerate terrorist attacks should not be in positions of leadership. Then I don't think this went anywhere, but he retweeted something by Paul Harrison. Reports on ground in Manchester, people are moving people and media back for fear of a second suspect device. Controlled explosion expected. I don't know what happened with that. Then there's a retweet of something that says, by some Muslim that says, we have more, another threat, but you don't know if it was real or not because often people like to talk big in that group. And he put, was this posted before the explosion or after? Does anyone know? Paul Joseph Watson then points out Manchester has been bombed several times in the past by the IRA, but this is the first time anyone has died. ISIS-affiliated accounts now threatening vehicle attacks. And then he retweets something by, inevitably a liberal, that Tommy Robinson will be hoping this is a terror attack, always using tragic events to promote his hate rhetoric. And then Paul Joseph Watson simply adds, this is the mentality that pervades Britain. Then he puts it all in perspective. They massacred teenage girls at a pop concert. Will this change anything? Will our leaders amend any policy? Hashtag Manchester. Then he has that tweet by a Muslim that says, we have more. And he writes, Twitter needs to be working with police to identify this ISIS goat fornicator who reportedly was tweeting about the attack hours before. Then he shows ISIS attack. This is from Josh Kaplan, who I talked to last week or was messaging with. He retweets Josh Kaplan saying, ISIS accounts celebrating Manchester attack. And again, the David Levitt tweet that said, here's the exact text, multiple confirmed fatalities at Manchester Arena. The last time I listened to Ariana Grande, I almost died too. That last part is mine. And Paul Joseph Watson writes, the CBS writer who considers himself part of the anti-Trump resistance joked about the massacre of children, and the tweet is still posted. It was still up there much longer. And then he posts this tweet of a picture of 3 different, all female, all young looking, what they had tweeted. What happened in Manchester is disgusting and heartbreaking, but stop using it as an excuse to spread your Islamophobia and racism. He also includes, please don't share Islamophobia. This is enough hatred. My prayers are with the victims and their families in Manchester. And from Gwyneth, 19 dead in Manchester, and people still find a way to hate. There are children lost and dying. No one cares about your Islamophobia. Bull, fecal matter. Yeah. And he adds to that, once again, Twitter is awash with concerns about Islamophobia. Concerns about stopping terrorist attacks? Not so much. Then he has a tweet by someone that says, Islamophobia and sickening fake news is rife. Tonight is showing a lot of people to be vile humans. Thoughts with all in hashtag Manchester. And he writes to that, vile vile humans follow a belief system that justifies blowing up teenagers at a pop concert. Shall we concentrate on stopping them? Then the loathsome David Frum, who's a Never Trump rhino, writes, "As we mourn Manchester, remember, for a moment of ignorant boasting, the president betrayed one of the West's best sources inside ISIS." Okay, that may be true, but the timing, I don't know. Using a Harry Kachatrian, who I had on Backlash on Shark Nation Radio a few days ago, using a terrorist attack aimed at children to further your anti-Trump agenda. Stay classy, David Frum. Then he includes something from another Never Trumper, Ross Douthat. A suicide bomber at a Teen Idol concert was the climax of Stephen King's Mr. for Mercedes. That was fiction. He was foiled. Okay, that's interesting to know. But Paul Joseph Watson writes, this is the same guy who joked about Trump's assassination playing out like a movie script. Just creepy. Jake Tapper has posted just a British flag, I guess, to show solidarity. That's big of Jake Tapper. Paul Joseph Watson wrote about that. Jake Tapper has tweeted a Union Jack. Everyone can relax now and stop being concerned about constant terror attacks. Fornicating idiot. Then there's a tweet from The Independent that says there's only one way British should respond to attacks such as Manchester. There's only one way Britain should respond to attacks such as Manchester. That is by carrying on exactly as before. A picture of Ariana Grande saying, wearing very little. Stefan Molyneux is retweeted by Paul Joseph Watson there, who in the Stefan Molyneux comment to that Independent tweet about carrying on just as before. A little tough to do if you're dead or dismembered. And Paul Joseph Watson also adds, this is otherwise known as submission. The Associated Press had tweeted, Manchester police say man set off improvised implosive device at Ariana Grande concert, then died in the attack. And his comment there is using the term suicide bomber politically incorrect now? Then there's something in PJ Media, which I'm going to get to a different piece, by David Goldman, and the title of this piece, which I haven't looked at yet, Manchester, the time they came for our children. No, actually, it's not the time they came for the children. Ever heard of Rotherham? Google Rotherham if you're not familiar with that. No, they've been coming for children, or at least tweens and young teens, for a while now, the Muslims who have invaded and largely subdued Great Britain. Paul Joseph Watson's comment about that is, we may not like it, but we are at war. You should behave accordingly. Then there is, Katie Hopkins, who is a conservative writer, reported to police after demanding, quote, final solution following Manchester attacks. Paul Joseph Watson's comment there is, I put some pretty controversial links up there myself, so who knows, but I'm in the U.S. You see the links at the top of this. I have one that about something I'm going to read from David Goldman. Then I have 3 pieces in there that I think are worth your attention. One by Citizen Warrior, one by someone named John Walker called Enemies, and one by Ann Barnhart called something like How a Virile Nation Would Respond to the Musloid Problem. But Paul Joseph Watson's response to this, that Katie Hopkins was reported to police, was, while terrorists are blowing up our children, it's important to keep being offended by Katie Hopkins' tweets. Well done, virtue signalers. He retweets by Claire Lehman. The children of Manchester are pulling pieces of other humans' flesh out of their hair, and people are worried about Islamophobia. And then he adds something, this is just 20 minutes ago. Do not use, he posts something by Lena. Do not use this attack as a tool for your racism and Islamophobia. Manchester does not need your ignorance. And Paul Joseph Watson's comment there is, Manchester and the West need a population more concerned about stopping our children being blown up than hurting people's feelings. And then he has one from Bueno that says, as much as I'm praying for Manchester, I'm praying for Muslims who have to deal with racism and Islamophobia due to this tragedy. Paul Joseph Watson's comment there is, right, that's what our main concern should be after dozens of children have been blown up. people being mean to Muslim. And then Lucy wrote, how about, I think this is a comment to Lucy, who was responding, I'm not sure what she was responding to. How about rather than jumping straight to racism and Islamophobia, you grow up a little and let those affected recover and grieve, hashtag Manchester. And he responds to that with, how about you shut up about the cause of terrorism, forget about it, and then watch another 20 kids get blown up. Then there's a Breitbart article, leftists bemoan Islamophobia backlash on social media following Manchester terrorist attack. And then there's someone named The Bard as pundit, whose tweet was, I have a good idea. Let's piss off more Muslims with mindless Islamophobia. That should help. And Paul Joseph Watson's response is, so you're saying that offending Muslims will turn them into suicide bombers, and you're accusing me of being an Islamophobe? Oh, the irony. He has a link to Terror in Manchester, an article. May, that's the Prime Minister of England, confirms police and security services have identified terrorists but not releasing name yet. Manchester bombing. Then there's a tweet, a picture. No, there is something from election night in America of Ariana Grande, her tweets after Trump won. I am in tears. And she also tweeted, well, this is utterly terrifying. And Paul Joseph Watson is, no, Ariana, what's utterly terrifying is your fans being blown up by a terrorist. Then something by an Alfie Malkin, who wrote, for those who are using last night's terror attack to back up their racism, this is Manchester after a terror attack from the IRA, in parentheses, white. Paul Joseph Watson comments there. Brings up 21-year-old incident that killed no one to virtue signal about racism. It showed damage to buildings there. Newsflash, Islam is not a race. The Well-Being Party tweeted, hate is conquering love, and yet the greed of the white devils who own capitalism terrorizes us all. Paul Joseph Watson writes, apparently white capitalists are to blame for last night's attack. And his pinned tweet at the top, again, is, if it turns out to be Islamic terrorism, nothing will change. Our leaders have repeatedly told us to just accept this. So those are the tweets from Paul Joseph Watson. I had a few up there that I thought were worthwhile from other people too. Where is this? I got to get to my Twitter, my Facebook page. Okay. Let me get to this. I had included something that said, from the Gateway Pundit, that an article that said, Manchester attack, ISIS released instructions on how to make homemade bombs. That was fairly recently. Jack Posobiec simply responded Manchester to Emma Watson's tweet, hashtag refugees welcome. Refugees welcome, though I think that was beforehand. Jack Posobiec had also tweeted, UK spent more time harassing Tommy Robinson for saying this would happen than stopping this. And Mike Cernovich simply added, let that sink in. I also included something from a few years ago about the video where Ariana Grande, who's kind of trampy and just lame in my opinion, a video of her at a bakery tonguing the donuts there, thinking she's so clever, pissing off the hardworking people who were working there, and then tonguing her new boyfriend there. And I included that article with the comment, no, I'm not minimizing what happened in the jihad attack, note choice of words, not tragedy, at and after the Ariana Grande concert. But just in case you need something to balance out this post or whatever, here are a couple must-reads in honor of the events earlier in Manchester. And I include the pieces that I have linked up there from Citizen Warrior and Ann Barnhart. Then, here's the best thing. This is a great meme that I saw after the attack in London a few months ago. It's much better visually, but I'll read it to you. And I have it fairly high on my Facebook page. Emergency plan, 10 steps in case of a terrorist attack in European city. 1. Tearful cartoons. 2. Facebook filter, and there's a picture with the French flag that says, I'm helping. 3. Crying on TV. 4. Light up buildings. 5. Candlelight vigils. 6. More refugees. Now we get to the good part. 7. Call those who want to stop it bigots. 8. Wait for the attack. 8, wait for the next attack. 9, repeat. 10, do nothing. That is the best meme to look at for something like this. Another tweet by David Levitt that came out in his comedy show after the attack. Honestly, for over a year I thought an Ariana Grande was something you ordered at Starbucks. Isn't that funny? That David Levitt, what a wit. What a great guy. And by the way, look at the outfit he's wearing. I think it's pretty telling. Okay, that's enough of those tweets. I want to include something that Eliakim Cohen, who made Aliyah, that means moved to Israel, if you're a Jewish person. He wrote, I think this is very worthwhile. Then I'm going to get to what David Goldman wrote, which I only saw right before I started this. And, hopefully it's worthwhile. Everything he writes is worthwhile. But Eliakim Cohen, who was on Backlash, I think a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now, here's what he wrote. The reason the Nazis, Yemach Shem, and Yemach Shem means may their names be erased, were so successful in World War II was their use of the pincer move with their tank formations. 2 armored spearheads would move to encircle the enemy, cut them off, and destroy them. Where can this be seen today? Muslims have their own pincer movement. They hit you with terror on one side, which is surprisingly enough the least powerful of the two. Then they get you with Islamophobia. It's just a small minority. Don't condemn the whole group. It has nothing to do with Islam. Boom, you're encircled. All the politicians today will be literally pushing each other out of the way to be the first to say, today's attack had nothing to do with Islam. It was a radical minority who disgraced the millions of peace-loving Muslims who are horrified with this attack. These few criminals will not in any way impact the democratic, tolerant societies we live in. You heard Obama do this for 8 years. It shouldn't be a shock to you. We're losers, everyone. Me, you, everyone you know are losers. Well, maybe not you as much, Eliakim, because you were smart enough to actually make a move to Israel, where they're a little tougher about things like this. But he continues, we are stuck in a pincer movement, and nobody will do what is necessary to fight our way out. When Muslims misbehave poorly in China, the Chinese just shoot them and crack down brutally on their communities. FYI, they don't misbehave too much. Japan absolutely forbids Islam in their country, hence they have none of the violence the rest of us experience. Do you want to be naive, tolerant, and dead? Or do you want to realize life is precious and worth living and not worth losing just to appease the world's most despicable cult that has not changed one mother fornicating, he says mother freaking iota in 1,400 years? And, choose life is something that Jews certainly emphasize. You can see the number of kids the religious Jews have here and in Israel and all over the world. Muslims are the bane of the world right now, and that will never change no matter how good your country treats them. In fact, it only makes it worse. Their entire religion is based on the world domination and conquest. Their entire religion, he does not put religion in quotation marks, which I think would be appropriate. Their entire religion is based on world domination and conquest, and until the idiots in this world realize this and get used to more, until the idiots in this world realize this, get used to more headlines like the one you saw in Manchester today. And let me just read you what David Goldman wrote. I'm seeing this for the first time, and I'm reading it live. I trust David Goldman. This is at PJ Media. I have the link up there. He uses the name for his column Spengler, and this was published, I guess, late last night. I'm just going to read all of it. The first rule of intelligence work is that there are no coincidences. A horrifying terror attack at a pop concert Monday night at the Manchester Arena, followed by ours, the first ever visit by a sitting American president to the Western Wall of the ancient temple at Jerusalem. We do not know, except in generic terms, who bombed the children and teenagers who gathered to hear Ariana Grande. But we know the message. We will murder your children. It is a message designed not only to terrify, but to horrify. We do not know either what occasioned the timing of the atrocity, but we know how large looms Jerusalem in the civilizational war of our times. The importance of President Trump's visit to the Western Wall, in Hebrew, the Kotel, cannot be underestimated. Even though the United States announced the visit as a personal rather than an official one, and even though Israeli officials were excluded from the visit, the image of an American president standing in awe before the embodiment of the 3,000-year Jewish presence in Jerusalem was a diplomatic gesture on the grand scale. It came on the eve of Israel's celebration of the 50th anniversary of the unification of its ancient capital during the Six-Day War of 1967. While the President of the United States touched the ancient stones in reverence, His Jewish daughter, Ivanka, prayed a few meters away at the women's section. With this gesture, President Trump buried years of diplomatic maneuvering to deny the Jewish connection to Jerusalem and the Temple, which is a synekdoche. I don't know what that means. David Goldman's a really smart guy, by the way. I mean that. He's one of the smartest guys out there, but I should know what that means. Which is a synekdoche for the Jewish presence in the Holy Land. Jerusalem is the tipping point for American diplomacy. Last December 23rd, the outgoing Obama administration refused to veto UN Resolution 2334, which called Israel's presence in East Jerusalem an illegal settlement. The decisive phrase, which America's veto had suppressed until then, referred to Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, including East Jerusalem, including the Western Wall. Israel rightly regarded Obama's abstention as a stab in the back. 2 months earlier, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, passed a resolution that airbrushed away the entire Jewish connection to Jerusalem, in obeisance to Arab claims that no Jewish temple ever existed in the city. Throughout 2015, a wave of paranoia spread through the Muslim world with rumors that Israel planned to seize control of part of the Temple Mount and turn one of the Muslim mosques built atop the temple ruins into a synagogue. President Trump, hold on, I'm trying to load more here. President Trump has not acted on his campaign promise to recognize Israel's sovereignty over Jerusalem and to move Israel's embassy there. But his Kotel visit sent an electrifying message to the Muslim world. America stands by Israel's 3,000-year claim to its ancient capital. In stark contrast to the Obama administration, President Trump repudiated years of Muslim diplomacy focused on the sole objective of evicting the Jews from their holiest site. He did so after telling Muslim leaders assembled in Riyadh that it was their responsibility to extirpate the terrorists from their mosques, communities, and countries. Postmodern America, the America of Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, of campus speech codes and safe spaces and progressive virtue signaling, agrees with the Europeans. So does the shrinking, isolated Israeli left. But most of America senses an existential bond with the state of Israel. In contrast to Europe, where Israel ranks next to Iran as the world's least regarded country, Americans support Israel against the Arabs by a margin of more than 4-1. America's sense of identity is imprinted with the image of Israel. Barack Obama appeased the terrorists, most abjectly, Iran. Donald Trump declared war on them and came in person in an unprecedented action to stand by Israel. We should not forget that this is a war and we are in its early stages. Let me see if I can just access any comments here. Yeah, let's include this. The enemy is inside our, this is now not David Goldman, it's the comment section. The enemy is inside our frontiers with visas and passports of our countries. They have the collaboration or passivity of many of our fellow citizens. We have to imagine Vietnam War against the North Vietnam with the size and population of half of Asia, with an incalculable number of Viet Congs and supporters living in our cities, sometimes in our neighborhoods, and the mainstream media, political establishment, and academia giving them favorable coverage while accusing and deactivating the ones that fight this. This new world war will be a very bloody and cruel civil world war. When I see more teddy bears and candles, I'm going to puke. You can see that meme I posted pretty near the top of my page. I did it last night. Okay, another comment. The otherwise incisive case this essay makes begins to break down after the words, "the British are squishy." First of all, while I don't doubt the prevalence of European antipathy towards Israel, 14 of the countries surveyed in the original poll are not even European countries. The poll is also 4 years old. So excuse me for taking the conclusions Mr. Goldman draws from it regarding the Europeans and their motivations with a pinch or two of salt. Okay, fair enough. And also, he used the word Arab countries when he probably should have used Muslim countries, because Arab countries doesn't include, for example, Iran. Also doesn't include Turkey, while we're at it. Secondly, Prime Minister Theresa May, whose party enjoys a double-digit lead in some polls, spent years serving as the Home Secretary, a position responsible for all policing, counterterrorism, and counterintelligence activities in Britain. The idea of her bending to the will of Islamic terrorists and lashing out at Israel, with an election weeks away, is utterly absurd. Thirdly, Mr. Goldman imputes a level of strategic coordination to Islamists in the West that might have been true 5 or 10 years ago. America trampled on our claim to Al-Aqsa, but they're too strong. Let's go for a softer target like a European country. They're too strong, meaning Israel, I guess. Okay, then some stuff about lone wolf attacks. Let's get to a shorter comment. If the cost of keeping wages low is a few dead teenagers, so be it. I don't know if the Muslims are there to keep wages low, really, at this point. And that's about it. Maybe originally the Muslims came to Britain because it kept wages low in the post-World War II years, but I don't know. Anyhow, let's see if we can get a sunrise for you. Sat through a lot there. Not too happy stuff. And let's just take a quick look. There is one. Okay, that's me.
Coffee shop.
Yes, I'm going on a little bit of a diet. Yeah, it's a nice morning here in Florida. A little bit cloudy. It's peeking through. Let's get you that view through the palm trees. All right, have a nice day.